In a world where every public moment is scrutinized, few leaders make bold gestures that speak louder than words. But on a historic day in Ouagadougou, Burkina Faso's transitional president, Ibrahim Traoré, did exactly that. Standing at Anthem, a national event packed with over 50,000 citizens and broadcast live to millions, Traoré made headlines not for what he said, but for what he refused to do. As the French national anthem began to play, symbolizing lingering colonial ties, Traoré stood motionless, arms at his sides, defiant. He did not sing, salute, or pretend. The silence was deafening, and moments later, the crowd's response would send shockwaves around the globe. The event was billed as a unity gathering, aimed at reaffirming Burkina Faso's sovereignty. In the wake of international tensions and recent political shifts, dignitaries, journalists, and citizens filled the stadium. As is customary, the French anthem was played alongside Burkina Faso's own, an act viewed by some as symbolic unity, and by others as colonial residue. But when the opening notes of La Marseillaise echoed through the air, something unprecedented happened. Ibrahim Traoré didn't join in. Cameras caught his stoic expression. He didn't bow. He didn't flinch. He simply stood still, unmoved. First, the crowd was confused. The orchestra played on, but murmurs began to ripple through the stands. Viewers at home took to social media instantly. "Is he refusing to honor the French anthem?" one post read. Another said, "This is the moment we've been waiting for." Seconds after Traoré's silent defiance, the most unexpected thing happened. The crowd, sensing the moment's gravity, began to rise. One by one, thousands of people stood up, not in respect for the anthem, but in solidarity with Traoré. Some turned their backs to the speakers. Others raised their fists in the air. The atmosphere transformed into something electric, almost sacred. In just under a minute, over 50,000 people had silently joined their president in a unified act of resistance. The anthem played on, but its power seemed to dissolve. There was no singing, no forced smiles, only unity through stillness. International media outlets struggled to interpret what was happening. Some called it a protest, others called it a revolution in symbolism. Whatever it was, it became clear that something massive had shifted. Traoré had not just made a statement, he had ignited a wave of unapologetic national pride. After the music ended, Traoré stepped to the microphone. "We honor no flag that once flew over our chains," he declared, voice steady and clear. "Our anthem is freedom. Our allegiance is to the people of Burkina Faso." The stadium erupted, not in chaos, but in thunderous applause and chants of "Traoré, Traoré." The cameras rolled as the crowd grew louder. Within hours, the footage went viral. Hashtags like "Traoré refuses" and "Burkina rises" began trending. Even those far from Burkina Faso watched in awe as one man's quiet defiance became a nation's bold awakening. In France, the reaction was swift. Some government officials condemned the act as disrespectful. Others tried to downplay its significance. But in many African nations, Traoré was being hailed as a hero. "He didn't just stand still," one African commentator said. "He stood up for all of us." Across the continent, Traoré's gesture was replayed over and over, becoming a symbol of post-colonial resistance. Universities held forums. Youth leaders shared clips. Elders said they hadn't seen this kind of spirit in decades. It wasn't anti-French. It was pro-dignity. What surprised many observers was how measured Traoré's action had been. There was no rage, no shouting, just silence with purpose. Analysts noted that such symbolic gestures often carry more weight than political speeches. "He let the people interpret his meaning," said one scholar, "and the people responded with unity, not violence." For Traoré, who has positioned himself as a man of the people, it was a calculated yet authentic move. He knew the cameras were watching. He knew the world would react, and yet he stood as if only the truth mattered. Following the event, Traoré declined all media interviews. Instead, he posted a single message online: "Freedom is not given, it is chosen." The post garnered millions of views within 24 hours. Even some critics had to admit, whatever one thinks of his politics, his conviction was undeniable. And for a region still wrestling with foreign influence, Traoré's gesture offered something rare, a clear and personal act of sovereignty, not dictated by institutions or diplomats, but by a man standing alone, then followed by tens of thousands, who understood exactly what he meant. The next few days saw murals painted, songs written, and even poems recited in Traoré's honor. Protesters in other nations began incorporating the silent stance into their own demonstrations. It wasn't just about France, it was about reclaiming voice, dignity, and identity. Burkina Faso's streets buzzed with a renewed sense of purpose. "We don't need to shout to be heard," said one young activist. "We just need to stop pretending we're still under someone else's anthem." The silence at that event spoke more than words ever could. It said, "We are done asking. Permission to be free." In time, that one moment, Traoré's refusal to acknowledge the anthem, will be studied, remembered, and perhaps replicated. It wasn't a policy shift or a declaration of war. It was deeper than politics. It was symbolic resistance wrapped in dignity. The world had seen revolutions fueled by fire and fury. This one was different. It was powered by silence, multiplied by unity, and made unforgettable by the resolve of a man who simply refused to pretend. And when 50,000 people joined him, they didn't just stand with their president. They stood for themselves, for history, and for the future.